Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine that a faulty microphone would shatter the illusion of my marriage. My name is Jonas Carver, a 38-year-old audio technician at Seattle's Paramount Theater. My life revolves around perfecting sound, fine-tuning mixing consoles, balancing levels, and ensuring every whispered line resonates through the grand auditorium. I had always believed my life was steady, my marriage secure. Until that night. The evening started like any other. The theater buzzed with activity as we prepared for an upcoming production of Macbeth. Crew members hurried around like industrious ants, their movements rehearsed and efficient. From my station in the sound booth, I was conducting routine checks when a lead actor's microphone began to malfunction, crackling in my headphones like static from a distant storm. Adjustments didn't work. Replacing cables did nothing. Determined to fix the issue, I began tracing the signal pathway. That's when I heard it. Through a supposedly inactive channel, a voice came through, soft but unmistakable. My wife, Lila. As the theater's stage manager, she was known for her quick wit and unyielding determination. We had been married for 8 years, our lives woven together in this very theater, our 6-year-old daughter Sasha at the heart of it all. Hearing Lila's voice wasn't unusual, but something in her tone chilled me. Hushed. Conspiratorial. I increased the volume, my pulse quickening. She was speaking to someone, a man. Their words became clearer, each syllable carving icy dread into my spine. They were discussing Sasha, a plan to keep her away from me. I froze. Cold sweat slicked my palms as I strained to hear every detail. Another voice joined in, deeper, unfamiliar. Lila called him Rex. My mind scrambled to place him. Then it clicked. Rex Holden, the newly appointed director. He mentioned needing to complete the plan before I caught on. Complete what? A sickening realization settled in my gut. Sasha had been home more than usual lately. Lila claimed she wasn't feeling well. No doctor visits, no prescriptions, just her word. And now this. My hands trembled as I cut the audio feed, but their words echoed in my head, relentless and damning. I had to know more. The show was minutes from starting, but Shakespeare's verses had lost all meaning. Every sound in the theater, the hum of stage lights, the murmurs of the audience, felt deafening. My world had tilted, and all that remained was the desperate need to uncover the truth. I abandoned my post. Making my way backstage, I passed tables littered with theatrical props, mock swords, goblets, tattered scripts, until I reached the control room. Dust and machinery oil thickened the air. I worked quickly, tracing the mysterious signal. An auxiliary line, rarely used, deliberately connected. Plugging in my headphones, I braced myself. Static crackled before voices emerged. Lila's tone was urgent, pressing. Rex responded, his words clipped. Midnight. Transportation arranged. I stiffened. Midnight was only hours away. Were they planning to take Sasha tonight? Panic surged through me. My daughter's innocent face flashed in my mind. Her laughter, her wide hazel eyes. I yanked off the headphones, my heartbeat thunderous. Their destination remained unknown, but I had to find out. The performance ended in roaring applause, but I remained hidden in the shadows, watching. Lila stood across the stage, clipboard in hand, directing the crew. But she was different, restless, her eyes scanning the theater. Rex loomed nearby, adjusting a lighting rig, his posture tense. When they finally parted ways, I followed Lila, keeping my distance as she exited through a side door into the cold Seattle night. I trailed her to the parking lot, slipping into my old pickup truck just as she climbed into her dented Honda. She pulled out, heading west. I followed, headlights off, navigating through the thickening fog. The city's bright lights faded behind us, replaced by flickering neon signs and abandoned warehouses. Finally, she stopped at a decrepit storage facility, the perimeter lined with rusted chain-link fencing. Rex's dark SUV was already there, engine idling. They stepped out, silhouettes merging with the shadows. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. I cut the engine and crept forward, concealing myself behind a stack of rotting wooden pallets. The air was thick with dampness and decay. Lila's voice drifted through the night. Urgent. Frantic. She can't stay with my sister any longer, she said. Rex's response was sharp. We stick to the plan. The breath left my lungs. Sasha wasn't at home. Another lie. Another betrayal. My fists clenched. I fumbled for my phone, recording their conversation, heart hammering. Then, a crack. A snapped branch beneath my foot. Silence. Rex spun, flashlight slicing through the fog. I dropped to the ground, pressing into the damp earth as the beam swept past. Seconds stretched into eternity. Then, the light moved on. Voices resumed, lower now, guarded. I remained frozen, gravel biting into my palms. One thing had become terrifyingly clear. This conspiracy ran deeper than I had ever imagined. And my daughter was at the center of it all. I'm Jonas Carver, lying motionless against the cold, unforgiving ground outside a rusted storage unit, my pulse hammering in my ears. The beam of Rex's flashlight sliced through the dense fog, barely missing me before vanishing into the night. Lila and Rex stood mere feet away, their voices sharp against the humid air. My phone, tucked against my chest, continued recording as I pressed into the jagged gravel. I had trailed Lila from the Paramount Theater to this desolate lot on Seattle's outskirts, seeking answers about Sasha. What I discovered was beyond my worst fears. Rex paced restlessly, muttering about timing. Lila's voice was tense, urgent. She mentioned her sister in Tacoma was growing suspicious, pushing them to act sooner. They planned to move Sasha the next evening. My blood ran cold. Tacoma was an hour south. If Sasha was there, then Lila had been lying to me for weeks. No illness. No innocent visits. Just deceit, layered in fabrication. Then Rex confirmed the horrifying truth. The forged documents were complete, a new identity, a one-way ticket to Los Angeles. For Sasha, they weren't just hiding her. They were planning to erase her from my life entirely. Something inside me snapped. My phone slipped into my pocket as I surged from my hiding place, propelled by pure fury. Lila's scream split the air as I charged into the dimly lit shed. A single bulb swung overhead, casting long, distorted shadows. Rex spun toward me, his massive hand twitching toward his waist, toward a weapon. I didn't wait to find out. My voice thundered as I demanded to know where Sasha was. The air crackled with tension, charged like the storm gathering outside. Lila went pale, her clipboard slipping from her fingers. "You don't understand," she stammered. "You're twisting this." Rex took a menacing step forward, chest puffed out. "You need to leave, now." I didn't move. Instead, I grabbed a nearby chair and hurled it at him. Wood splintered as he dodged, cursing. The shed was a maze of crates and clutter, but one object caught my eye. A duffel bag, half-zipped, children's clothes spilling out. Sasha's dinosaur pajamas. Her favorite ones. My heart clenched. They'd already packed her things. I turned to Lila, my voice raw. "How could you do this?" She crumpled against the wall, tears streaking her face. "It's for her own good," she choked out. "You're too controlling, too obsessed with your work." Rex sneered. "Face it, Carver. You lost her." Ignoring him, I yanked open the bag, rifling through its contents. My hands trembled as I found the forged identification. A new name, a new life, one designed to erase me completely. Thunder roared overhead as I raised my phone, its screen glowing in the darkness. "Say it again," I demanded. "Tell me exactly what you were planning." Lila sobbed. Rex lunged. His massive fist knocked the phone from my grasp, sending it skidding across the floor. I didn't hesitate. I tackled him, slamming him into a stack of crates. Wood exploded around us as he swung wildly, his knuckles connecting with my jaw. Pain flared, but I held my ground. Lila screamed for us to stop, her voice lost beneath another crack of thunder. Rain drummed relentlessly against the metal roof, leaking through rusted seams, pooling on the concrete floor. I pinned Rex down, my knee crushing into his chest. My fingers closed around my phone, its screen still flickering, still recording. I staggered to my feet, my breath ragged, the coppery taste of blood on my tongue. This was it, the proof I needed. Lila stared at me, wide-eyed, realization dawning. Lightning illuminated the terror in her expression. She knew. She had lost. But this wasn't over. Not yet. Securing evidence was one thing. Ensuring Sasha's safety? That was another battle entirely. I bolted through the downpour, my boots sinking into thick mud, and dialed the only person I could trust. Tessa Merrill. At 37, she wasn't just my closest ally. She was a ruthless attorney with an intellect as sharp as a scalpel. When her voice crackled through the line, calm yet urgent, she gave me one instruction. "Get to my office. Now." Navigating through the storm, Seattle's skyline blurred into neon streaks of rain-slicked light. By the time I reached Tessa's desk, the recording was already playing, Lila's confession twisting the air like a blade. Tessa's expression darkened. "This is enough," she said. "But we have to move fast. Finding Sasha is priority one." That night, I enlisted Vince, a grizzled private investigator who smelled of stale coffee and nicotine but had a talent for unearthing secrets. By dawn, he had tracked Sasha to a cramped Tacoma apartment. Lila's sister, Nora, had been hiding her. I raced down I-5, gripping the wheel so tightly my fingers went numb. When I finally burst into that apartment, Sasha was there, eyes wide, trembling. The moment she saw me, she ran into my arms. "Where's Mommy?" she whispered, voice thick with tears. I held her tight, pressing a kiss to her hair. "She's not coming," I vowed. "Not ever again." Vince captured the moment, every second documented for court. But I wasn't done. Lila had made her move. Now it was my turn. Back in Seattle, Tessa and I orchestrated the final act. Using a disposable phone, I baited Lila with a message, an offer to meet, to discuss Sasha's future. She took it, desperate, convinced she still had a chance. I transformed our home into a trap. A hidden microphone beneath the coffee table, linked to my laptop in the basement. Outside, Tessa and two officers waited in an unmarked car, ready to strike. When Lila walked through the door, rainwater dripping from her coat, I saw it, the flicker of hope in her eyes. She thought I was surrendering. I let her live in her delusion, maintaining my composure as I placed a cup of coffee before her. With a steady voice, I inquired about her plans to escape. She hesitated, but then, as if unburdening herself, she revealed everything. She had met Rex months ago. He painted visions of a fresh start in Los Angeles, promising her a life free from the constraints she claimed I had imposed. She accused me of being too controlling, of leaving her no choice but to flee with Sasha. Her voice wavered between remorse and defiance, every word captured by the hidden microphone. I pressed further, asking about the forged identification. That's when her facade crumbled. Panic flickered in her eyes as she admitted to conspiring with Rex, explaining how they had arranged fake documents through a Portland forger. My pulse pounded. The confession was secured. Then, the doorbell rang, shattering the fragile moment. Lila's expression froze in confusion as I stood. When I opened the door, Tessa was there, flanked by two uniformed officers. The color drained from Lila's face. Instinct took over, and she bolted for the back door. But she didn't get far. An officer intercepted her, pinning her to the hardwood floor. She thrashed, screamed, hurled accusations, but the metallic click of handcuffs silenced her protests. Rex's arrest followed soon after. They found him at his residence, the incriminating duffel bag still in his car. The trap had sprung perfectly. Justice was in motion. At King County Courthouse, I sat in the gallery as the trial unfolded. Sasha remained safe in Tacoma with my mother while Tessa built our case. The recorded confession played aloud, each of Lila's damning words sealing her fate. The forged documents lay in stark exposure on the evidence table, illuminated by harsh overhead lighting. Nora testified, her voice shaking as she described how Lila had tried to manipulate her into hiding Sasha. The deception unraveled swiftly. Across the room, Rex glared, his lawyer arguing entrapment, but the stern, gray-haired judge remained unimpressed. The verdict was swift. Lila received 10 years for attempted kidnapping and fraud. Rex got 5 for his role as an accomplice. The courtroom fell silent as the judge delivered her ruling, her voice as cold as stone. She denounced Lila's betrayal of her maternal duties and condemned Rex for preying on a family's vulnerability. I exhaled a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Relief should have followed. Instead, there was only a hollow ache. As the gavel fell, Lila let out a wretched cry. The officers led her away, her fate sealed. Victory was mine, but its cost was still unfolding. I am Jonas Carver, and even now, the courthouse's silence echoes in my bones. The next day, I filed for divorce. Tessa handled the paperwork in her cluttered office, her pen scratching against the documents with methodical precision. I sat still, staring at a coffee stain on her desk, feeling the dissolution of 8 years of marriage in the ink drying on those pages. The judge awarded me full custody. Lila lost everything: her freedom, her parental rights, her place in our daughter's life. I moved Sasha into our Seattle home, but the space felt vacant, haunted. Her toys lay scattered across the floor, untouched since that night of the confession. With trembling hands, I packed them away, knowing this house would never again feel safe to her. My career disintegrated alongside my marriage. Word spread quickly in the theater community. The Paramount staff whispered behind my back. People averted their gazes. I had become the man who turned a respected stage manager into a convict. One day, the artistic director pulled me aside, his expression apologetic yet firm. My presence, he said, was a disruption. I resigned before they could fire me. Years of expertise vanished overnight. I scraped by with freelance gigs at small venues, but the income was unreliable. My savings dwindled. Eventually, I sold my truck to keep up with rent. Seattle's rain seemed relentless in those months, seeping through every crack in my life. But no one bore the weight of it more than Sasha. Her nightmares shattered the silence of our home. She would wake up crying, calling for her mother. I held her close, stroking her hair, whispering reassurances, but her eyes remained lost in some distant fear. A child psychologist diagnosed her with severe abandonment issues. Healing would be a long road. The night she asked if I would leave her too, my heart fractured. I swore I never would, but her silence cut deeper than any blade. Months later, I visited Lila at Gig Harbor Women's Correctional Facility. The sterile room smelled of bleach and resignation. She shuffled in, lost in the fabric of her orange jumpsuit. Hope flickered in her eyes when she saw me. She begged to see Sasha. I leaned in, my voice devoid of warmth. You destroyed that chance. She launched into excuses, fear, Rex's manipulation. I remained unmoved. Instead, I mentioned the locked box I had found in her closet. Her face paled. Her words stumbled, dismissing it as meaningless. But her fear betrayed her. I left her there, her desperate cries fading behind the closing door. At home, I pried open that box with a crowbar. What I found made my blood run cold. Letters. Dozens of them, in Rex's handwriting, dating back 2 years. They were more than just love notes. They were detailed plans, how to drain my bank accounts, forge documents, stage an accident if I got in the way. This wasn't a momentary lapse in judgment. It was a carefully constructed betrayal, conceived long before the night in the shed. A photograph slipped free. Sasha, barely 3, sleeping peacefully. They had been watching, planning, waiting. My legs gave out beneath me. This wasn't just infidelity. It was a conspiracy, a slow, methodical erasure of my existence. Betrayal doesn't just break trust. It poisons everything it touches. Lila lost her freedom. Rex lost his career. I lost my marriage, my livelihood, my sense of self. But worst of all, Sasha lost her childhood. Now, I teach her that honesty, no matter how painful, is the only path forward. Lies create shadows too deep to escape. One evening, as we stood by Puget Sound, the crimson sunset bleeding across the water, I held her small hand. The waves lapped gently at our feet. We'll survive this, I promised. She squeezed my hand in response, a glimmer of belief flickering in her eyes. But those letters remain, locked away. A reminder that some wounds never fully heal.